What is going on YouTube? Benson Smith Wild coming at y'all with a different style of video this time. I have been thinking about making this video for a little while, and honestly I want to first shout out the channel Pilgrim Pass for creating a lot of the inspiration for me. His YouTube video depicting why Aragorn is the epitome of masculinity struck a deep chord in my heart, so I wanted to make my own splintered video essay on Aragorn. Why did I say it like that? Anyway, I have linked Pilgrim Pass's video in the description below. I highly suggest giving it a watch, and it really gave me the groundwork for making this video today. Anyway, in the context of today's video, as you hopefully read it, is how Aragorn became my idol. So Aragorn becoming my idol was not an instant reaction, but rather a slow burn. But I'll break down this journey of discovery in the following sections. The first is how my favorite Lord of the Rings character morphed and changed over the years as I developed through life. And I'll jump into some philosophy and some thinking that I've been interested in of late, and I want to tie this to these characters in question, some thinkers and philosophers like your boy Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, and Socrates. From there, in the next section, I will explain why Aragorn wins for me. I'll deepen this through an analysis of his balanced personality. I'll explore his development as a person and how he became the ultimate leader, and ultimately why many of us should take a leaf out of Aragorn's book. And finally, I'll sound it off. So, believe it or not, Aragorn was once far from my favorite character. Inspection! In my younger boyhood, at the top of the pedestal stood Éomer. Éomer's macho masculinity made sense to me at that age. He was brave, strong-willed, and an astounding warrior. He led with force and authority, and those who didn't share his view fell to his blade.
I would cut off your head, dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground.
In my youth, this made the most sense to me. This foundational idea of manhood was how I perceived the strongest and best men to behave and act. But as I grew, I moved away from Éomer. His lack of belief that anyone can stand in the face of evil.
You should not encourage him.
You should not doubt him.
I do not doubt his heart, only the reach of his arm.
Led me to see him as shallow and incomplete. He framed everything through his understanding of strength and normalcy.
When the fear takes him, and the blood and the screams and the horror of battle take hold, do you think he would stand and fight? He would flee, and he would be right to do so. War is the province of men, Eowyn.
I am no man.
He seemed to lack a sensitivity and tenderness to the softer beings in life. You dig? So, as I grew into my early teens, it became Boromir. Boromir was proud and defended those he loved with everything that he had. His brotherly relationship with Faramir really resonated in me, having older brothers.
Leaves more time for drinking. Break out the ale! These men are thirsty! Remember today, little brother. Today, life is good.
I loved how his playful aspects balanced with his incredible fighting abilities.
Sorry!
Boromir at the core really meant to do the best by his city, but spoiler alert, he ultimately fell to the shadow.
It is not yours saved by unhappy chance. It could have been mine. It should be mine. Give it to me! Give it!
Epic battle, and he redeemed himself right as he passed, but these hidden traits led to his death.
The Horn of Gondor. Boromir.
Walk around with that 40 on me, nigga, yes, tucking true religion. 2, 3, 4. How I feel to know that I'm fucking on your hoe. 5, 6, 7, 8. I'ma break the bitch. You gon' take her on a date. 8, 9, 10, 11. Bands in your head, my little nigga tryna get 'em. Hey, and I don't fuck a 12. I keep that hammer on me, I'll get a nigga nailed. You got the ball up in your court, nigga, game time. Ain't no room for hesitation, I'ma bang mine. You ever smack the 4 and 4 perks at the same time? We'll do this nigga hella weird if he ain't slung.
In the case of Boromir, his choice of betrayal and his envy for power over something that was uncontrollable contributed largely to his demise. So then I moved later into teenhood and I started blazing up like Gandalf and Bilbo. Ethereal concepts and experiences flew into my astral plane. Legolas now became my favourite for his angelic movements and fighting abilities. His skill with the bow and battle was just simply unmatched. Brody was just genuinely built different. Legolas moved through the world with such a divinity and grace that amazed me. But this level of grace eventually seemed unattainable and unrealistic. Legolas wasn't bound to the same fate of mortality. He didn't face the same interpersonal battles that humanity warred with. This association belonged only to a being of his nature. Although I still love Legolas, his elvish soul was destined to leave Middle-earth and sail west from the Grey Havens to Valinor, also known as the Undying Lands, or the Blessed Realm. So I finished school and I left my hometown where I grew up and I began living independently in a new city. The soul searching went onwards, and by that point and still to this day, Aragorn makes the most sense to me. Before I break down why Aragorn wins for me, I want to explore further on some philosophy that resonates with the soul of this video. I mentioned earlier the concept of the shadow, and Carl Jung had a deep interest in the shadow, its form and its content, and really in the process of assimilating with the thing a person has no wish to be. Or in other words, assimilating and learning from your negative tendencies built into your nature. Jung saw quite clearly that failure to recognize, acknowledge, and deal with shadow elements is often the root of problems between individuals and within groups and organizations. It is also what fuels prejudice between countries and can spark off anything between an interpersonal fight or a major war, and we're seeing this rife all over the world today. Jung argued that becoming familiar with the shadow is an essential part of individuation, which I won't explain, I'll put the definition up, but essentially just becoming a more rounded, more whole, and complete person. And this can be achieved through examining your tendencies for the characteristics associated with the shadow and understanding how you can embrace them so you can ultimately learn from them. The boy Socrates famously observed, "The unexamined life is not worth living." I feel like him and Jung were sipping on that same Kool-Aid, you know. Brody wasn't really writing much down back then, but rather just spitting flames to his pupils in the present moments. Some of his timeless statements were, "Awareness of ignorance is the beginning of wisdom, and true wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us." But if we're being real, most of the news is fake.
So how do we know that history isn't fallacy as well?
Well, either way, if these quotes were uttered by Socrates himself, I still feel that they're relevant and they ring true to this day. And this is going a bit off track from the Lord of the Rings, but stick with me, please. So, Carl Jung was once upon a time another philosopher, Sigmund Freud's protege, and they both shared similar takes on the human psyche and the unconscious at the time, and they shared a mentorship turned partnership for a while there. Eventually Jung broke away from Freud, when they more or less disagreed on aspects of Jung's thinking. With Freud, primarily believed that sex was the prime driving force or libido in all people, and that most of our problems arose from this. I think just boiling it down to sex takes the complexity and beauty out of it all for me. I honestly just think Gang was on some freak shit, if I'm being real. But what I love about Jung is he believed that the driving force or libido was much more than just sex. So now that I've talked about some of the philosophy tied to the video, I hope that it will now give some depth to why Aragorn wins for me and why I think that he'll always be my favorite character and ultimately my idol. So Aragorn lived the examined life. He didn't always stand in the light that he eventually rose to, but rather stayed in the darkness for much of his life, in fear of the shadow that lay within him.
Why do you fear the past? You are Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself. You are not bound to his fate.
The same blood flows in my veins. Same weakness.
He knew his tendency for being corrupted by the ring and was working through many interpersonal battles before he felt ready to fulfill his destiny.
Your own choice to make, Aragorn. To rise above the height of all your fathers since the days of Elendil. Or to fall into darkness with all that is left of your kin.
He didn't rush, nor was he impatient. But in this time, he was proactive and developed skills and knowledge that improved his ability to help those around him tremendously. Although enormous, the shadow did not eventually overrun him, but rather taught him elements about himself so that he could become a better person and leader. This scene is not talked about enough. Brody just running the ball up against the whole posse, no backup. He shared a beautiful relationship with Arwen, who was just a serious weapon carving her own lane. This scene physically hurts me for some reason. It always has, even as a kid. Bro, just, there's way more horrible deaths, but just seeing her face cut like that just hurt me as a kid for some reason. This scene is goosebumps.
If you want him, come and claim him.
Aragorn just feels like the most balanced and whole, and I feel like he achieved this through personal introspection and growth. And I hold the belief that there are people like Aragorn moving in today's world, and that we could all strive to reach that wholeness that Aragorn achieved. And I'll leave you with one quote I found by YouTube user Keef's Chingdom. Out of a world filled with elves, wizards, magic rings and dragons, the most unbelievable thing was a truly good and unselfish man. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching and tuning in. Let me know any thoughts you have in the comments, and if you'd like to add anything. I suspect most of y'all will troll, you fucking jesters. But love, love, love. Peace.